Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're going to be going over the manual Integra. Before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Jody Wilkinson Acura here in Salt Lake City, Utah for giving me some time with this car. This one is still available for sale for the time being, so if you're interested, I'll include a link to their website in the description down below. And if you don't already know, the Jody Wilkinson Acura here in Salt Lake does not charge any sort of markups over MSRP, so if you want a great deal on a new Acura, including Type S models, check them out, and then link to my car buying guide in the description down below as well. As always, let's get into it. Powering this is a turbocharged 1.5 liter 4-cylinder that goes through a 6-speed manual transmission. Fuel economy is 26 around town and then 36 on the highway, with power outputs being 200 horsepower and then 192 pound-feet of torque. Now, before we go over the front end, I do want to mention, if you want to see more videos just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post content every single day. So starting with the hood, this blue paint really shows off the body lines, which are really sharp on the Integra. And then coming down below, you guys can see the daytime running light there with the LED headlamps, and then of course Integra stamped into the bumper, which is pretty sweet. Parking sensors integrated, and then notice we got a little fog light action there at the bottom. And then you guys can see here with the grille that has the Acura logo front and center. And putting it all together, I still think the Integra looks really good, even though we have the Type S out that looks really crazy. The regular one still looks good in my opinion. And come around the side here, our tire wheel setup is 235, 40, 18 in the front and over in the rear. And then you guys can see here with the wheels themselves, metallic gray, you got the silver brake caliper, so it kind of all comes together. Then of course we have our A-Spec badge here. Notice the mirror caps and the door handles are body painted, and then the trim around the windows is all blacked out. And then here's your full side view with the Integra, and the back is very interesting. Acura calls it a lift back because it's kind of a mix between a sedan and a hatchback. It's interesting. So here's a key fob. We have our unlock function or lock function, the unlock for the hatch, and then the Acura logo. And I do like Acura's key fobs. They have a very nice premium feel to them. And popping the hatch, it is quite spacious back here, and you guys can see that the loading floor is quite a bit lower than the actual lip right here. And I like that we have the A-Spec floor covering. I think that's another cool addition. And then we do have a cargo cover built in from the factory, and when you're all done, they give you these nice handles to plop it down. Got this low profile spoiler here, and then I love the taillight design, and then of course Integra stamped into the bumper yet again. A-Spec badge there on the other side, parking sensors here at the bottom, and then look at the diffuser slash exhaust tip setup, pretty sweet. And wrapping things up, let me know what you guys think about the style. I know everyone's gonna be like Type S, Type S, Type S, but come on, this thing still looks good. Now popping inside, you guys can see this one has the orchid interior, and it's definitely unique, especially the contrast between that and the blue. And then here are the back seats, you can see, to match the door panel and everything else. Now legroom here in the back of the Integra is actually pretty dang solid. We also happen to have a little storage there, some USB action, and we've got a cup holder armrest, unlike the Type S, which does not have that. And then last but not least, I am touching the top with my head. Now taking a look at the front door panel, we've got soft touch here at the top, and then you guys can see, again, with the orchid there. All of our window controls, front to are automatic. You've got your mirror adjustments, memory seat, and we have the ELS sound system, and then blind spot monitoring with the mirrors as well. And then here are the front seats, you guys can see with the blacked out trim there on either side. Of course, power adjustable. You've got lumbar support as well. Lots of A-Spec badges, as you can see. And then we've got the 3-pedal layout because this one has the manual. And by the way, I will have a review on the automatic as well, so that's another reason to subscribe. And then we've got our stability control here, and then of course, got the cool vent control. Now taking a look at the steering wheel, really nice trim all around, and then you guys can see the contrasted stitching in the center. A-Spec there at the bottom. We do have adaptive cruise control with our steering assist. We've got our volume and voice command controls as well, and then you can see the regular stocks there on the back. Now taking a look at the center, we've got this full digital gauge cluster, and we can scroll through a bunch of different menus there, as you can see. But the fun thing is with the drive modes, if we pop it into the sport mode, everything kind of gets red and aggressive. Now in reverse, we have a backup camera with trajectory lines that turn with the steering wheel, and resolution on it's pretty solid. And then as for the rest of the infotainment system, this is basically a straight carryover from the Honda Civic, which I think is a bad thing because response time on this is really good. It has like an actual volume control here instead of everything being built into the touchscreen, and then that's for the radio stations. So other than the plopped on look, it's a good system. And then I like the fact that there's soft touch all over the dash, and I like this trim here with the vents. I think that looks pretty cool. And then the climate controls, just like the Civic, have a very nice feel to them. And then you have heated seats as well. And then down below we've got some USB action, wireless phone charging pad on top of that. So here's our shifter for that 6-speed manual transmission. We'll talk about it more during the driving portion, but definitely a cool thing because, I mean, it's a manual, right? We've got our individual mode right here, and then the rest of your drive mode select your auto stop start, and then your parking brake, and then your brake hold. Some cup holder action here. You can see the center console. And pretty normal glove box, it looks like. Yeah, nothing crazy there. And then we have a sunroof up top as well, and of course a sunglass holder. So here is our window sticker for this Integra A-Spec. You guys can see pretty much everything standard equipment. The only option is the color, basically. But $36,500 base price, total MSRP after destination and everything, $38,295. And let's see how it drives. Well, let's talk about visibility before we set off in the manual Integra. Here's visibility of the hood, and hopefully you can now see the heads-up display. Both mirrors are dual blind spot monitoring, and throughout the rest of the rear. And let's set off. This will be a fun review because, well, if you guys follow the channel, you know that I have recently reviewed the Type S twice now. I did a canyon drive with one, and then I did a city drive with one. And so, yeah, it'll be fun to go back and drive this quote-unquote base Integra, right, the base powertrain, and see if I've changed my mind about the base Integra after driving the Type S. First off, what I do want to say is the clutch is different in this than the Type S. There's not as much feedback as we get in the Type S. So it's kind of interesting. There's actually like a, and it's lighter too. It's perceivably lighter. So it's interesting that there's actually like a perceivable difference with that. I find that absolutely fascinating. Now, aside from that, suspension's really smooth. This might actually be more comfortable than the Type S, which makes sense, right? The Type S has the sporty underpinnings. It's more focused on fun driving, so it makes sense why the suspension would be a little bit harsher on that car. Overall, it's just a nice place to be when it comes to this interior. I think that Acura's done a really good job with this. So I'm gonna pop into the sports mode, so things get more aggressive. Does the auto rev match, which is a really cool feature. And honestly, you know, for these manual 4 cylinders, I think it's just almost like, especially city driving, it's a must-have, because the thing about 4 cylinders is they just don't like to blip up that much. Like or not blip up, but rev up is what I mean. When you blip the throttle, it's like not a lot happens with the 4 cylinders. And so it's just a nice thing to have, because it, you know, the computer takes care of all of it for you. Thing's actually pretty, it's not like insanely quick. We'll get a better acceleration up here in a moment, but I forgot, like, I mean, the transmission's great. This thing's fun to drive, so I think that's great. And then the steering's also really, it weights up very nicely. The thing I like about this car, honestly, is the fact that I feel like I can have fun legally. And I guess that's a way of saying that, yeah, the car's not super fast. If you want a fast one, you got to pay like, what, 14 grand more for the Type S or whatever, roughly. But yeah, anyways, it's an absolute blast to drive. And so that'll actually get me to summing things up here with the manual Integra and kind of, you know, my overall thoughts on this car. So, you know, what a lot of people might call this is just a, you know, overpriced Honda Civic, right? Overpriced Civic Si. That's ultimately, I mean, it's kind of what it is. It's got the same engine, transmission, limited slip differential, all of that stuff from the Si, nicer interior. And here's my thoughts on this car. Okay, so what are you gonna compare this against? Audi A3 maybe, BMW 2 Series. Mercedes got rid of the A-Class from the US market. We have the CLA now only. And so when you look at those cars, you can't get any of them with a manual. And the thing that I like about the Integra over those cars is that, first off, I think that this has better ride quality. compared to those. The one that would be the best is the Mercedes, but still, I think that this might be better. Aside from ride quality, the interior fit and finish, I think, is better with the Acura compared to the German rivals. And I also trust this. Like, I think it's pretty safe to say that this is probably still going to be going after 100,000 plus miles. I don't think you could say the same thing about, you know, the German cars, right? And then when it comes to driving experience, this is actually fun to drive. No, it's not fast, okay? But it has a manual. The others don't have a manual. And like, I actually like this is actually fun for me to drive. It's engaging. When I review an Audi A3 or again a BMW 2 Series, I am bored out of my mind. I'm reviewing the car because like that's my job, but it's not a pleasant experience. This, like, I actually enjoy doing this. Like, I look forward, like I was looking forward to doing this review. And so I think that this is like a kind of a one-of-a-kind vehicle in this segment where it's just as economical, it's just as, you know, I think it's cool looking on the outside and it's priced right, but it's actually fun to drive, whereas the other cars in the segment, you can't get them with manuals and they're just not fun to drive like the Integra.